Hello and welcome to another tier list video. Today we are taking a look at condiments. Now I think condiments are great. You can take pretty much any boring or bland, tasteless food, and if you add the right condiments on it, you can at least make it taste pretty good. So starting us off, we have ketchup. Kind of the trademark of condiments. When people think of condiments, ketchup is usually the first one they think of. I feel like it's by far the most popular. And it's by far the most versatile. I mean, you can add it to so many different things. It goes great with so many different things. So many good things to dip ketchup in. You pretty much can't think of French fries without thinking of ketchup. And honestly, flavor-wise, I don't think ketchup is my favorite one on this list at all. But just because it's so versatile and it's so useful, and it goes well on so many different things, I think ketchup just has to find itself in the S tier. Up next, we have mustard. Kind of on the opposite end of ketchup. People think of ketchup and mustard a lot. Mustard is definitely more of a strong flavor, I will say. And I'm personally not a huge fan of it. Even people who don't really like ketchup, if it's on something, usually it's not really overpowering unless there's too much. But mustard, I feel like even if you put a little bit of mustard on something, the flavor is definitely really prevalent. And I find that it usually overpowers the other flavors I like to taste. And the taste of mustard itself isn't my favorite, so mustard is actually going to find itself down in the D tier. Up next, we have relish. Now, relish is one that a lot of people don't really like. Personally, I do enjoy relish, especially on a hot dog or, even sometimes a good sandwich. That being said, I think the applications of relish are very limited. I will say hot dogs is probably the best way to use relish from what I found, and there's not a whole lot of other applications of it that work super well. So relish, well, it tastes good. I like it. It's just too limited in its applications, and it'll find itself in the C tier. Up next, we have ranch. Honestly, outside of ketchup, I would say this is probably one of the most versatile condiments. Ranch is one that goes so well on so many different things, whether it's, salads, burgers, sandwiches, even like tacos and burritos. You can dip French fries in ranch, you can dip chicken wings in ranch. I mean, there's just so many applications of ranch, and honestly, it tastes really good. So ranch, rightfully so, also going to find itself in the S tier. Up next, we have hot sauce. We got Frank's Red Hot here, but really any hot sauce. And I think hot sauce is great. It can make a lot of things that really don't have any flavor at all, and it can give them actually some flavor. So I think hot sauce goes great with things like chicken, especially chicken wings, eggs. There's just a lot of good meats that go really well with hot sauce. So hot sauce, definitely a solid one, going to find itself in the A tier. Up next, we have honey mustard. Now, honey mustard, it's got mustard in the name. It doesn't taste, exactly like mustard, but it definitely does have that mustardy flavor in there. That being said, I don't mind honey mustard quite as much. I'll dip an occasional chicken nugget in some honey mustard, and I do think it tastes decent compared to mustard, but that being said, it's also limited in its applications. There's not a whole lot of places where honey mustard goes really well outside of, like, chicken. So honey mustard, well, it tastes better than mustard. It's only going to find itself in the C tier. Up next, we have mayo. Now, flavor-wise, mayo really doesn't offer a whole lot. That being said, I think mayo goes really well on a lot of different things, whether it's burgers, sandwiches, especially things that are a little bit too dry. Like if you have a sandwich that is a little bit too dry, I think mayo goes a long way, adding some moisture, adding some texture. So while the flavor mayo brings to the table isn't always the best, I think the other elements that it brings in terms of moisture and texture, I think can go a long way. So I think mayo is a really solid condiment, going to find itself in the A tier. Up next, we have marinara sauce. Now, I really like marinara sauce. I think it tastes really good. It goes great with like breadsticks, or if you have like cheese sticks or deep dish pizza. I think it goes great to dip it in some marinara sauce. That being said, I think marinara sauce is relatively limited in the things you can use it. So while it does taste really good, it just doesn't have quite as many applications, so it'll find itself in the B tier. Up next, we have Caesar dressing, which a lot of people, they limit Caesar dressing to just Caesar salad, which I love Caesar salad. Goes great. Probably the best way to use Caesar dressing, I would say. That being said, Caesar dressing actually goes well in a lot of other places. Not all the places that ranch goes well in, Caesar dressing can be used, but there is a lot of them. Things on like sandwiches, if you have like a chicken wrap or something like that. I think Caesar dressing goes great on a lot of things like that. And I think Caesar dressing is actually pretty underutilized outside of salads, and I think it's a pretty solid choice, so it'll find itself in the B tier. Up next, we have teriyaki sauce. Now, I quite like the taste of teriyaki sauce. That being said, as a condiment, it's not really one that I like to add on after something's already been cooked. I think teriyaki sauce at its best is when it's used during the cooking process. You know, if you're making like a stir fry, cooking the stir fry in the teriyaki sauce, or maybe cooking some chicken, cooking it in the teriyaki sauce. I think that really brings out the flavor a lot more than just adding it on after. It's still good to add it on after, but not quite as much. So teriyaki sauce, it's good, but as a condiment to add on after, it's not the best, so it's only going to find itself in the C tier because of that. Up next, we have blue cheese. Oh boy. I'm sorry to you blue cheese fans out there, but it is disgusting. I cannot stand blue cheese. There's been times where I have my chicken wing, I dip it in some ranch, I take a bite, only to realize that it is not ranch, it is blue cheese, and my taste buds are just, they're crying out for pain, crying out in pain. Honestly, blue cheese, horrible. I can't eat it at all, ever. F tier. Up next, we have chocolate syrup. Chocolate syrup tastes super good. That being said, in terms of its applications, it's definitely more of a dessert condiment. It goes really well on like ice cream, brownies. Honestly, I've even seen some people put it on their donuts. But honestly, I think it's pretty versatile. Definitely the most versatile dessert condiment. That being said, you know, just being a dessert condiment, you're already pigeonholing yourself quite a bit, but it still tastes pretty good. So chocolate syrup will find itself in the B tier. Up next, we have steak sauce. Now, I think steak sauce tastes pretty good, especially A1 steak sauce pictured here. That being said, I think that some of steak sauce's best applications is actually not on steak. I think if you have a good steak, if it's a good cut of meat, you season it properly, you grill it properly, you shouldn't need any steak sauce in order to add flavor. I think steak on its own should have enough flavor if you cook it properly. That being said, I think steak sauce goes great on other types of meat, especially meats that, you know, maybe don't have as much flavor. Even things like chicken or pork. Honestly, I think steak sauce goes pretty well on those, you know, to add a little bit of extra flavor, a little bit of extra moisture, especially if the chicken is dry. I think steak sauce has some great applications outside of steak, and I think people should use it more. So steak sauce is going to find itself in the A tier. Up next, we have cream cheese. Honestly, a pretty versatile one. People often just think of cream cheese as going on like toast or bagels, but cream cheese goes well on a lot of different things. A lot of things you don't even expect. Like if you have a Philly cheesesteak sandwich, you put some cream cheese on top. It sounds a little bit weird, but it really complements the Philly meat. And honestly, cream cheese, just a really solid choice and has a lot more applications than people think. So cream cheese gonna find itself in the A tier. Up next, we have salsa. Honestly, just another classic. I mean, chips and salsa, of course, is good, but salsa goes well on a lot of things, whether it's tacos, eggs. You know, there's just so many things that salsa goes great on that people don't really think of right away. Flavor-wise, you can pretty much get any flavor profile with salsa. I mean, there's so many different ways you can make salsa. Green salsa, red salsa, even yellow salsa. There's just a lot of variety, and, you know, in my opinion, there's a salsa out there for everybody. So salsa gonna find itself in the A tier. Up next, we have Tabasco sauce. Now, I think you might say Tabasco sauce fits under the umbrella of hot sauce, but I would say Tabasco sauce is a little bit different because you're more so adding spice and flavor, whereas hot sauce also adds the moisture and the texture, because usually you're adding a bit more, whereas Tabasco sauce, you're just adding a couple drops for flavor. That being said, because of that, I think Tabasco sauce is a little bit more limited in terms of where you can apply it and make it taste good. But I think Tabasco sauce does go really well with some things where you can really mix it in and get it evenly distributed. The main thing that comes to mind is soup. I think Tabasco sauce in soup is a really good way to add some flavor. That being said, it's still a bit more limited, so it'll find itself just in the B tier. Up next, we have guacamole. Now, I've talked about this in my other videos, but I absolutely love guacamole. I mean, I could eat it plain. It's by far my favorite condiment on this list. I put guacamole on everything. Burgers, sandwiches, burritos, tacos, wraps. I mean, anytime I get an opportunity to put guacamole on it, it's going on. Guacamole, definitely going to be S tier. Up next, we have barbecue sauce. Another really versatile one. I mean, a trademark. If you're having ribs, you got to have barbecue sauce on there. It goes so well with, you know, chicken, pork. You know, barbecue sauce, it's another classic like ketchup or ranch. It's just so versatile and it tastes so good. There's tons of other varieties of barbecue sauce with different flavor profiles. And honestly, it's just a fantastic sauce, so gonna find itself in the S tier. Up next, we have honey. Another one that I would say is a little bit more limited. It goes great on things like toast, bagels, you know, some other pastries. That being said, I feel honey is a little bit more limited in terms of where it really shines. You can add it to a lot of things, but where it really shines is really just in that pastry category, in my opinion. So honey tastes good, but a bit limited, so it'll find itself just in the B tier. Up next, we have tartar sauce. Now, tartar sauce is one that I don't particularly love. I usually don't add it to things, but I definitely don't mind if it's there in the right place. That being said, the right place for tartar sauce is kind of pigeonholed to just seafood for me. There's not a whole lot of other places where I've seen tartar sauce, really add value to the meal. So because it's really only great in seafood, it's just going to find itself in the C tier for me. Up next, we have soy sauce. Now, soy sauce for me is a bit like teriyaki, where I think soy sauce is at its best when you're actually cooking in the soy sauce. Cooking your stir fry, your rice, your chicken in the soy sauce. But I will say soy sauce is still a bit better to add on after the fact than teriyaki is. It's not going to be quite as different. So if you need to add a little bit more saltiness, a little bit of sharpness to your meal, I think soy sauce is a pretty good choice, and it'll find itself in the B tier. Well, that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.